Hi guys, and welcome back to another IBRACORP video. We hope you've been enjoying the recent uploads, and we're going to keep the steam rolling with this new video today, and this one's about Serge Chat. As you know, there's a lot of hype around AI and language learning models all around the world. It's got so many buzzwords that we can't even keep up these days. Even if you want to try and avoid it, you pretty much can't. It's everywhere, including videos, images, absolutely everything. Now, if you're curious about AI and the chat aspects of it, and you want to host it yourself on your own server with very minimal resources, then this is the video for you. Today, we're diving into how to install Serge Chat on Unraid using Docker. Whether you're looking to enhance your chat experience or you're just curious about Alpaca and LLaMA, you're in the right place. Stick around to transform your Unraid setup into a powerful chat interface in just a few minutes. Let's get going. Serge Chat is a cutting-edge app that lets you chat seamlessly with Alpaca through LLaMA. It's fully Dockerized, it's a breeze to set up, and it offers an incredibly intuitive API for all of your chatting needs. As you can see, we're on the project page here on GitHub, and they describe it as LLaMA made easy. LLaMA is a large language model, or LLM for short, and a lot of the AI chat systems and algorithms that we're seeing out there in the world today are really an LLM, although the word AI tends to get thrown around quite a bit. But this is a pretty cool app, and there's a few reasons for that. For one, we get a nice interface that we can actually look at. If I just play this video here, you'll be able to see it in action, and it has a various number of models built into it that we can use when chatting with the application. Now, I've had some time to play with it, and I will say, based on other feedback as well, if you're using something like ChatGPT 4 and you're paying for that subscription, like we are, we've been testing ChatGPT 4 for months now, then you may find a little bit of a difference in the output you're going to get from this. But there's some considerable differences here. One is it's completely free, it's open source, and it's self-hostable. And the resource requirements are very, very, very low compared to something that you would need a very heavy rig for. We're just talking about disk space, really, and a decent processor. Everything else just works really smart. So a couple of use cases you might consider this for is you want a built-in chat system or a chat GPT of your own, if you will, and you want it self-hosted and you want to be able to refer to it, maybe even proxy it if you wanted to, and access it remotely. Now, we're not necessarily suggesting that, but it is an option for you there if you're outside of home and you want to have access to your own system. All right, so what are the prerequisites? We're going to need an Unraid server, we've got Docker running, and a little bit of basic knowledge of Docker commands, which I'm going to walk you through anyway. There's always some considerations to have, of course. Make sure you're backing up your stuff regularly, and don't ever install something you're not willing to lose if you're not having backups run regularly. So we could look at the project page all day, but why don't we just get stuck into the installation and get you going. Once we get it up and running, you'll basically be able to access it on the default port 8008 unless we change it during the installation. Let's get started. Now, like I said, we're running this on Unraid today, and I'm going to show you how to get it up and running on your Unraid server. But if you're not using Unraid and you're just using Docker or Docker Compose, the team here have given you the commands straight off the bat, so you can copy those, run them, and get an idea of how it all works. Once you've got the installation down pat and you're on the same page as us in terms of the configuration stage and the use stage, it's going to be the same. So you can skip to that timestamp if you're not running on Unraid and continue on with the video. All right, so here we are on my Unraid server, and we're going to head over to the App Store. Search for Serge, and you'll see Serge Chat come up in the results. If we just expand that, you get a bit of an idea on what's expected here. So the interface is based on llama.cpp for running Alpaca models. It's entirely self-hosted, there's no API keys needed, and we can fit on a basic level of 4 gig of RAM running on the CPU. Now that's really, really cool because we're not going to need some sort of dedicated graphics card or any high-end specs to do this. As long as we have a decent amount of disk space and RAM, those are the two most important things, of course, and a decent processor, then we should be pretty good to go. You can see here, if we don't have enough memory for the model, it's pretty much just going to crash, and it gives you a rough idea on what to expect. Now, depending how much RAM you have in your system is going to dictate how well we're going to do here. If we come over to my server, specs over here, I've got 64 gig of RAM all up. You may have maybe 32. Just keep that in mind when you're going through the process and making sure that you're selecting the relevant settings, but we'll get there anyway. So let's go ahead and click install. Now, as I like to do, I run on a custom Docker network. If you don't know how to create that, we can just open up the terminal and we type Docker network create, and then give it a name for that network, say IBRANET, for example. Once you hit enter, that will create it. Another important setting there relating to custom Docker networks is if you go to your settings and then Docker, there is a setting there to preserve your custom Docker network configuration. If you don't have that ticked, it will forget them on your next reboot. So worth having a look and making sure that you have that checked. So have a close look at where things are being stored. Now, this is going to be important if you're really worried about your disk space available and depending where your shares are stored in your array. So by default, things here are going to our app data location, and that's fine in my case. I'm happy with that. That means that the app data location in my scenario lives on the cache and it will stay on the cache, which is probably the ideal situation in my opinion, purely because we're going to be using a lot of heavy read and write. Being an NVMe card, it's going to be able to do that a lot quicker. Other than that, there's really no other settings we need to do here. It's pretty much just going to pull everything down for us. So let's go ahead and click apply. Go ahead and click done. We'll come back to our Docker page over here and we'll left click and click on Web UI. Now that wasn't too difficult. We've already got it up and running and we can get started with the Serge chat. So we want to verify it's running correctly. Now here are the settings for the chat. But first off, let's download the models. So as you can see, once you hit on download models, it's going to display all the models available for us to use. So make sure you pick a model that, both suits what you need and is going to have enough space. The 7B or the 13B that you're seeing here is going to give you an idea on how much RAM we're expecting to use. Just to bring us back here for a moment, you'll see the 7B requires about 4.5 gig of free RAM, 13B about 12 gig, and 30B about 20 gig. So when we come back here, we can see that in the drop-down list, we have those various options. So depending on how much RAM you have available, make sure you pick the right one that's relevant. I'm going to go ahead and pick 13B chat for LLaMA 2 and click on download. Now you see in the top left, it started the download and it's progressing pretty quick. We'll come back to you once it's done. Unless you want to add any other models for now, you can just leave it with the one and give that a try. Of course, there's various different models here, so it's worth reading up on each of them individually and seeing what it's going to offer you. If you don't think it's going to offer you anything, don't bother taking up space for no reason. Do it on an as needs basis. We'll just wait for that to finish downloading and then we'll pick it up from there. So the language model's finished downloading. Let's go back to new chat. And as you can see here, we've got some model settings that we can change if we want. Otherwise, you can just leave it as default. Click on start a new chat. It's going to give us some idea on what the resources being used look like. So what can we ask Serge? What is the population of Fiji? So it's answering the question for us. And I will note, of course, based on usage of the premium feature of ChatGPT, it definitely doesn't respond as quickly. And you'll find that it does take a little bit to get what it needs across. But pretty straightforward. I mean, it's nothing that we couldn't just ask Google if we needed to, but let's try something a little bit more complicated. So I've just asked it to give me a script explaining what Serge Chat is. Let's see what it comes back with. So there you go. It's given us a bit of a sales pitch for itself and told us that it's designed by Meta AI, that it can understand and respond to human input in a conversational manner, etc., etc. And so go ahead and give it a try today. Not bad. If I was to go and ask GPT the same question, let's go try that. All right, so here we are on ChatGPT 4. This is the premium subscription that we're paying for here. So let's give that a try and see what it comes back with. So funnily enough, ChatGPT actually doesn't even recognize what Serge Chat is. Whether that's intentional or not, I don't know. But it could be based on the date stamp that's on there. So I'm just going to go and cancel that. And we'll come back here and I'm just going to ask Serge what the latest data information it has. It's having a think. All right, so it couldn't even really answer that question. And again, that may or may not be intentional. So why don't we ask it a question in the context of something that we know has happened recently? So I'm just going to go check the news. So what I might ask is, who's the current United States president? And like I said, it does take a little bit here, but that may change if we pick a different model that's using more RAM, of course. It's working within the boundaries that we've set. All right, so it's told us who the current president is. That's fine. So what I might do is ask it who the current presidential candidates are and see whether it gives me a different response there. Okay, so it took a little while to answer and it's come back with, obviously you can see like a blank date there. And it includes several candidates for 2024. So it's giving us a bit of a name now. So when I Google that same question, I get a different result, obviously based on the latest information. Not all these people are even included anymore. So it doesn't give me the actual date. So the reason why I ask these questions is we can still really use this model to achieve a lot of tasks that we ask it to do. What it's going to help us do though is structure our prompts and our requests on our needs based on, non-date reliant information. If we're going to need to do something with information relating to up-to-date information, we can refer to Google. But if we're asking for a task to help us with something, write a script or anything like that, the model still works really, really well. Now, again, I've only used one of the models here, which is the LLaMA 2 13B chat. There's plenty of other ones that will probably offer different things, but we can't go through every single one of them in this video. I encourage you to check them out and report back. Let us know in the comments which ones work better for you, or your best practices on how you use this if you're already using it. Now, half of the art when using a AI chat or a LLM is how to structure your prompts. That's going to be a completely separate video, but if you have any tips for that for the community, be sure to drop them in the comments. The other options we have are different themes. Now watch your eyes. I'm just going to turn light theme on for a brief second there. As you can see, extremely bright. Apologies for those working in the dark. We can also clear the chats out and start fresh. In the settings is where we can then configure a different model. So guys, that's Serge Chat. I hope it gave you a bit of an idea on how you can use AI built into your own Unraid server. And we can then reverse proxy this site or access it through our Tailscale network like I showed you guys in our previous video to this one. Did you love the guide? Hit like, subscribe, and share the video with friends to help them get started with Serge Chat. If you have any questions or want to see more content like this, drop us a comment below and let us know. We make content based on our user feedback, and this was a direct request from someone in the community who wanted to see this in action, and so we've gone ahead and done it. You can also join our Discord. We'd love to have you there. If there's anything else, be sure to let us know. Thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next IBRACORP video.